Hey guys, it's Kim here with Fairily Fiber Fun. Thanks for joining me on April 2021's Inspired by You video. So today we are making the yarn that you guys voted on all the different aspects for the final product. So we ended up going with 100% Tunis and gradient yarn and blues and greens with pops of purple. So here we're dyeing up the blues and greens. This time we're doing blues at the moment. And I am using an unnamed, unknown blue that's a very sea green blue sort of color, and then the rest are jacquard dyes, and they are turquoise, brilliant blue, and royal blue. Made a gorgeous mix, as you will see later on. And I am using about 1/16 teaspoon of dye per color, except for the very first unknown blue. It's such a pale color that I wanted to use a little bit more dye. And then I poured the dye into the pre-soaked with acid wool that I actually soak in the dye pans, and I just use the soak water as my dye water because why not? Laid the dye out over the 100 grams of wool in sort of a gradient layout, and then blended in a bit with a spoon and let it sit for about an hour before I turned the heat on. And then, of course, after all the dye had exhausted and the pans had cooled completely, then I took it out and washed it and all of that. So, and this is true of the green as well as the blue, but right now you're seeing the blue being made. I did want to say a huge thank you for joining me today, and welcome to my channel if you're new, and welcome back if you are a returning viewer. If you haven't already, please do hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you don't miss any new videos coming out. And if you enjoyed today's video, please give it a thumbs up and feel free to share with all your friends. Thanks so much. Okay, so for the greens, we are doing chartreuse, Kelly green. I'm actually using brilliant blue and spruce. And then I added some bright yellow because I should not have done the brilliant blue, but that's okay. Live and learn. So I put the two neon color greens, chartreuse and Kelly green, in first, and then the spruce. And then I messily threw the blue on there, realized the blue was not the best choice. So I went back and sprinkled a little tiny pinch of yellow dye on the top of the spruce, and that fixed my error. So even the best of us make mistakes when we're dyeing and working. You know, these things happen. For the color add-ins, little pops of color, I put wool. I did not weigh it out. I put wool in some jars with some water, and I threw some dye in there. Well, I think I put the dye in first, and then the wool. And I just let it sit for actually a couple of days. I forgot about it. Then I heat set it and took it out and washed it and all that. And that turned out pretty cool. So here you're watching me and my friend Dana at her house carding up the add-in colors. This entire project is all from the same sheep except for the black, and that is from a fleece that was sort of disintegrating, and I went ahead and used it because I wanted the effects of soft silk, but without using a different fiber. So it is all 100% Tunis wool, and it ended up being a good idea to use that fleece for the textural effects I was looking for. It was absolutely perfect for that. And I am just beyond pleased with the results. So here's the color lineup with the palest, brightest green all the way through the darkest back to the lightest blue. Now this took a lot of math. I had to weigh each of these individual bats, divide the weight by 4, write that number down, and then figure out how much I needed of each color in order to create the final 50-gram bat. And then the add-ins, just, you know, they were such tiny amounts, I had a lot of trouble getting them weighed out. And then it was a super windy day, and every time the wind blew really hard, the scale went bonkers and said stuff weighed a lot more than it did. So I had a lot of trouble with this, but it was fun, and I was outside, and well, I crave summer so badly that I will do everything outside. But you might notice I keep sticking stuff underneath the blanket, and that's so that the wind won't take it away. That's the extra fibers that I don't need for the 4 bats. And there was a little bit of extra because I do I weigh out more fiber than I think I'm going to need, with the assumption that there's going to be some waste. Always better to dye up more than you need than not enough, I say. So I did have a little bit of fiber left over, but not much. Maybe 15-20 grams altogether. Not much at all. So I think I did a pretty good job of weighing out my fibers initially and calculating for a little waste and weight loss throughout the processing. Anyway, now it is time to get on to the carding, and that's the fun part. So the add-ins will go in on the second batch of carding. The first is getting the colors together in layer. So we're layering them on one color after another across the full width of the drum. Nothing fancy here. And you might freak out, oh my god, those are going to get blended. Actually, they're not. Not really. Don't worry, stick with me. You'll see in a minute. So it's really critical though when you do this to lay out your colors in the right order and put them on the drum in the right order. Although if you mess up, you can fix it later. I did. I carded all 4 of these, and one of them I put the blues in the opposite order. All I had to do was separate where the green switched to blue and just flip all the blues over, but it was still a pain, and just thank God it was salvageable. So this is really pretty right here. Like, wouldn't you love to just spin this as is? It's gorgeous, it's perfect, but this is not a gradient bat. So before I get started making the gradient, of course I have to divide out my add-ins. They're going to go in 4 times, so, you know. And then comes the fun part, where I strip the bat down, separate the strip out by its colors. So you take the layer top to bottom and you turn it on its side and you spread them out sideways and you feed it back through the drum, and it makes a perfect gradient every single time. Gorgeous. So I did throw the add-ins in after every quarter of the bat was fed through, fed back through, whatever you want to call that. Words. If you don't know me by now well enough to know that I struggle with words, you totally should know that now, because I do. I struggle with words. I had fun with these little add-ins, getting them into the bat in different ways. It was a lot of fun. And you can see I'm really fiddling with this strip here. The colors didn't want to do properly when I separated them out. I also discovered if you don't thin out and pull out the very end of the bat, the last end of the bat, before it goes all the way onto the drum, it'll just go on in lumps at the very end. So I pull it out, make it wispy, and then you can't tell where that strip ends on the drum itself. So just a little trick I learned while I was working on this project. But anyway, I am over the moon about the final resulting product here. It's so pretty. I did not want to spin this. I don't think I've ever carded such a gorgeous bat before. It is perfection, and this tunis fleece became so soft. By the time it was carded 5 times, it was incredibly soft. So adding air to the fiber can make it a little softer sometimes. Anyway, this was hard. This killed me right here. I'm kidding, it didn't. I do enjoy seeing the layers inside the strips. They got to spin. And isn't that just like the prettiest fleece to bat conversion. Like, oh my gosh. Yeah, I had to just look at it twice there. I had to. I had to look at it twice and show it off twice because that little teeny tiny strip is just so gorgeous. Can you drool with me? All right. Anywho, moving on. I spun this short forward draft. Well, apparently I started with a short backward. Always have trouble getting my wheel to cooperate. The leader is actually too thick for my hooks. It has a knot or two in it, and yeah. I recommend a very thin leader for an antique spinning wheel, especially one that has such a tiny bobbin and tiny hooks. So, and there, once I get started, I can start doing short forward draft, which is what this bat really wanted to do, oddly enough. And the shiny stuff on the treadle is actually contact paper, clear shelf liner stuff that's sticky on one side. I have the treadle has actually got a crack in it, and one of the nails keeps popping up, and I ruined about 5 hand knit socks before I finally put this plastic on top of my treadle so that it wouldn't catch my socks anymore. The idea is to felt a piece of fabric that will wrap around it, but until I get around to doing that, this works. It's not pretty, and it's sacrilege to the poor wheel, but it works. So I'm just going to turn some music on while you enjoy the spinning portion, and I do a chain ply, so I think I will be back to explain that. So enjoy the spinning, and I will see you in a bit. here's a little bit of the chain plying action. And Navajo ply or chain ply is to create a loop. So you take one strand of yarn and you turn it into 3. So you make a loop and then you pull another loop through it, and when you get to the end of that, you pull another loop up through it. At the end of the day, it's a chain. Anyway, I didn't worry about the color transitions as I was doing this. I simply used fairly short loops. What you're seeing right here is what I did for the entire project, although some of the loops were actually shorter than that. And it's just what was comfortable with how I was sitting and all of that. So yeah, super easy, super quick. I didn't take but a few minutes since I didn't have a huge amount of yarn. And I'm very happy with the resulting gradient. So when you chain ply, it does help to keep the colors separated for self-striping or gradients or anything like that. And you can be picky about it or not, it's up to you. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!